Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our weekly podcast, RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress. This is our last podcast for 2020. Yay! Despite 2020 being a complete train wreck, I have to say it's opened a lot of people's eyes to the disabled community, and RAMP has been very successful this year. So we're going to do a year in review of everything that we've accomplished and we've done through. And tonight I have Pat Ford, who's going to put me through the chopping block and ask me some questions, and we're just going to have a conversation tonight. So welcome, Pat.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and congratulations on literally everything. I don't usually get to say that, and I haven't been able to say that to many times in the last year or so. But I think the only real question about 2020 was it A, train wreck, B, dumpster fire, C, being in the passenger's seat of your own personal driver's ed movie. D, I could go on. I mean, it's epic how bad.
We could probably go through the whole alphabet.
it might actually. I would hazard a guess that in the interim period between the dinosaurs waking up one morning and meteors crashing, that this was the worst year ever. It's just maybe the year Christ died for our sins. Okay, that was bad. But other than that, I'm pretty hard pressed to see any real, local, recent apocalypse of this level. It's wow. It really. I mean, in a time when we're used to a few things going wrong, literally everything went wrong. But for you, you're that one shining star. You're somehow in the midst of the apocalypse. You managed to move the ball forward in a way that was astonishing. Talk to us. How did we meet, by the way? I don't even remember at this point. Who introduced us?
Oh, God. I think we met through Bill Bartholomew. I did a couple of podcasts with him promoting everything that we were doing during the pandemic because RAMP really stepped up to help the disabled community. And we ended up connecting through Bill somehow, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
There you go. We were just and what's more astonishing about this award from Gina Raimondo, because remember, I am the most self-absorbed man in the world. So I have to somehow tie myself to everything. You won that award despite me. I mean, how you managed to win an award, while appearing on the Coalition Radio Network, is really speaks volume. I mean, even the East German judges gave you a 10. It really speaks volume to how great a presentation you make and the type of resources you bring to a community that is really needs to be made aware of what's available to them. I mean, it's you're talking about a group of people that for whom I would say communications has been a huge issue before you launch this variety of efforts. And when I say communications, I mean just there's help out there, and folks, the folks in the community that RAMP addresses are warriors, but there's like anyone, they need assistance, and they're spirit warriors, and yet, and many of them have managed to overcome so many challenges on their own. But if there's ways to improve the quality of life for everyone, then let's get the word out to the people and let's take advantage of that. And that's
so true. I mean, we were so honored to receive this award from the governor in special recognition of this podcast, because I'll tell you, it's been so well received, and we can't thank the coalition enough for giving us a platform but it gives to you the project that people who don't always agree on every subject, I mean, we're not politically on the same page, we have our own views and stuff, but people can have a conversation and still work very well together and get their own points of view and be respected by everybody. And that's so what the disabled community is all about on a daily basis. It's getting people to look at things from a different perspective and be successful at it.
Right. And, there are so many issues that by and large, all of us agree on, that the coalition network, the whole notion of the coalition started with this simple precept, and you nailed it. There are a lot of people out there of good spirit and of goodwill, and we agree probably on 50%, 60% of what needs to be done. Sometimes we disagree on how to get there, but we agree that what needs to be done and what needs to be done quickly. So my focus has always been, let's find those things that we can agree on, that quote-unquote low-hanging fruit, and let's work on that and get those issues resolved. And then in 10 years, we can all hate each other again and bang on each other and beat the crap out of each other about nonsense usually, but about the issues that we disagree on. And then we'll be in such a far better place, and maybe I have a feeling a lot of those issues will resolve themselves naturally. So let's focus on what we can accomplish as a team, as a group, as a community, as a platform. And that's how the coalition was built. The original coalition, going back to 2013, was a group of 3 individuals who had wildly different perspectives on the world. And the whole point of the show was to hammer it out. And in a real sense, that's what's become, if you will, a show on the network we call Pump Up the Volume, where you've got 4 folks of different perspectives, fair enough. But what that's done is it's spawned a lot of goodwill, because we do a focus on business now where we have small business people up. We've done some crossover with you on that. We had local business. We had Tony Sala just on a few weeks ago. But the real champion of that has been your effort, because you've brought people, an amazing list of people in an incredibly short period of time together to address these issues. So tell us about the award and give us a real sense of, and if you can read it, that'd be even better. And if you have it handy, you can show it to us.
I don't have it in front of me, but let me see if I can pull it up. It says, Certificate of Special Recognition. Be it known that I, Gina M. Raimondo, Governor of the State of Rhode Island, extended my congratulations to Real Access Motivates Progress podcast, in acknowledgement of the commitment to educate and advocate for accessibility and inclusion for our disabled community, and highlighting organizations that support this important cause. Your effort to break down barriers and prove that everyone deserves access demonstrates your remarkable commitment to support all individuals with disabilities. This work is deserving of recognition. In gratitude for all your hard work, compassion, I am pleased to issue the Certificate of Special Recognition. You have my best wishes and continued success. Gina Raimondo.
No, that's outstanding. And if you notice, nowhere in that conversation was people who either support folks who are physically challenged or the physically challenged themselves. There was no conversation of right or left, conservative, liberal, Democratic, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, none of that. There was no conversation about how you felt about the election. There was no conversation how you felt really about any one of 1,000 issues that seems to bedevil the body politic. The only concern was, how do we help folks in our community realize their full human potential? And that's really the nuts and bolts of the show, isn't it?
It's absolutely the nuts and bolts of the show. This pandemic has brought everybody's attention to how the disabled community lives on a daily basis. We can't go out to the restaurants we want to go to. We can't go to functions. We can't go to parties, merely for the fact that we just can't have access or we can't get in. Mm-hmm. After this pandemic passes, the world is going to open up to everybody else. But we're still going to be left out unless people open up their hearts and open up their places to accessibility. And that's the whole point of our show. Anybody can end up in this community at any given point in the blink of an eye. So let's make the world accessible now.
Right. And if we do it, well, it's a crisis in a sense already, because there are countless folks who simply are being limited because of, let's just say, a grotesque level of logistics. So, and it serves no one's purpose either. I mean, ultimately, the businesses that fail to invest in the means necessary to adapt to folks of different physical abilities lose on a couple levels. First of all, they lose potential business, but they also lose the input of a significant part of the fabric of our community. There are people and investors and coworkers and partners out there potentially, in addition to customers, that can benefit from that involvement in that business at some level, whatever the relationship is. And it's a mutual benefit, or now in this case, it's a mutual loss of benefit. The business itself, loses out on potential revenue, potential creative input. The business loses out on recognition. There's 100 possibilities that will never happen because a group of people were precluded from engaging in whatever that business conducts. And we'll never know. That's the real tragedy. It's a hidden tragedy. If you and I aren't introduced, I hazard to say you might have found a helm somewhere, but we don't know. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. You just don't know, and you may never know. This is a true story. There's a young woman who's a mother and an activist in the dyslexia issue in East Greenwich, and people who know me know that when my daughters were in college, I worked literally 3 jobs. One of them was essentially a glorified cab driver. Did that 3 or 4 nights a week from about 10 at night until about 4 in the morning. It's funny. I joke about it. One of the reasons I did it was always being able to say to my kids, or my wife being able to say to my kids, your daddy drove a cab so you could go to college. I mean, there's certain things that you just can't, what do the kids call that? A mic drop? That you can't come back from that. But so I'm driving one night, and I pick up a gentleman at the airport. I'm obviously a guy who talks a lot. Anyone who knows me can tell you that. So, we do the conversation thing. Hey, what are you doing? I said I do this part-time. I have a lot of fun with doing the lift because I meet people. It's a hard job. And for the people out there who do it, whoever listens to this, my hat's off to you. I did over 3,000 rides in about 2 years, part-time. Holy cow. So we start to talk about this. He goes, I'm new to Rhode Island. Really? What brought you here? Well, I had a job opportunity. Oh, and where do you live? East Greenwich. Well, what brought you to East Greenwich? Well, he goes, well, my children are dyslexic, and the emphasis on dyslexia. And I go, oh, that's funny you know that. I know a woman who is an activist in East Greenwich for dyslexia, and I mentioned her name. And he goes, well, I saw her on a video. Oh, I said, really? And he looked at me, and he goes, because I turned around for something, and he looked at me, he goes, and you were the host of that video. I said, what do you mean? And he had found by Googling the show we did an hour and a half in-depth presentation on dyslexia on a coalition show. And that ended up resulting in him moving to East Greenwich because of the activism and the support for students who are dyslexic. That's how these things are supposed to work. Think of the odds of me ever running into him anywhere, never mind 1 o'clock in the morning at TF Marine Airport. Listen, the work you're doing will change people's lives in unanticipated ways now and forever. If you're a Star Trek fan, what was the one rule? What was the one rule? The rule is you weren't supposed to screw around with the time-space compendium. They had a law about it on Star Trek, right? Because you would change history forever. When Star Trek people went back in time because they could do that. Well, that's what the kind of work that you're doing. You will the lives that you're impacting now, because of what you've brought together here in a package, if you will, that's easily accessible and identifies specific issues within the handicapped community, will change lives that will ultimately start this spiral upwards for people that we may never even meet. And that's why I'm so proud to have you as part of the, if you will, the founding year, the real bedrock of the Coalition Radio Network. Because we talk about things on this network, and you specifically talk about issues and challenges on this show that I call third rail issues that no one wants to talk about, no one wants to acknowledge, no one appreciates, no one, and folks in your community, a lot of the folks feel like they don't know how, they don't have access to, they don't want to challenge, the status quo, and that's what you do. You don't challenge the status quo, you freaking blow it up.
Well, it's so funny you say that because people would rather write their wills than talk about the disabled community or being part of the disabled community. It's that bad. And you know how many people want to write their wills? Nobody. You know what I mean? And we're below that. No one's maliciously inaccessible. They just don't know. So by going out and positively helping a business or an organization or community going, hey, for this amount of money, you can put a little removable step there, or for this, you could just do this. They don't realize how easy it is to start the process of becoming accessible. We're basically begging people to be accessible so we can give you our money. Bottom line is we're begging to give you our money to bring you more business. But it's been so well received by so many places because we did one of the oldest libraries in Providence, and they thought they were going to spend somewhere between like $50,000 to become accessible. They spent less than $1,000, and the place is fully 100% now accessible to anybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's a lot.
But people hear ADA and they're like, thousands of dollars. We can't afford it. We don't need it. We're not doing it.
Right. And I think there's a lot of fear of the unknown there. That it's an issue. Particularly now with COVID, but even before then, with all the challenges that face the small business person, there was a reticence, afraid to turn over that stone, because if you made inquiries or checked it out, the fear was that maybe you'd find out you weren't in compliance, which you kind of knew, but you didn't really want to give thought to it, because then someone would challenge you in a lawsuit and someone would do this and it would, all hell would break out. When in reality, it's one of these issues, if someone just someone approaches in a positive manner, all right, this isn't right, but this is how you can fix it. And no, I'm not looking to, sue you and put you out of business. I'm here to do that preemptive strike, if you will, that needs to happen in issues like this. I call them the third rail issues. There's so many things that no one wants to talk about, and they're not going to get any better. A friend of mine had came up with...
Well, here's a quick story for you. We helped the free play and arcade in Providence. Tony Santori is one of my good friends, Anthony, down there, and I did a roll through to his arcade. Now, you would think that a video arcade would be almost impossible to make fully accessible. We did his whole first level, and it literally cost him nothing. Move this game, lower this down, change this over, flip a few of the bathroom doors so they open the other direction. So now his whole first level of the arcade is 100% fully wheelchair accessible, right up to the bar. The funny part is on Monday nights, they have Pride Night on Monday nights. And they found out that 3 of the drag queens are in wheelchairs that they didn't know about, that couldn't participate, couldn't be active in their community because they didn't have access. Now they do. So now they just built a whole new place in Worcester and started that from the ground up, 100% wheelchair accessible. So now both their places, because they saw the value, they saw the community that they were missing out on, and they saw the people that were just missing out to being part of their own community.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I can see that as plain as day. But it takes that special someone to inject themselves into the situation, because you have to. I know you get people now as you become that are known that reach out to you, but particularly early on, you had to really inject yourself into some of these situations, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not shy by any means, and I also don't take no for an answer. But I mean, really, we really had to prove. Yeah. We really had to prove ourselves and prove our worth, and it was so hard. But when the pandemic hit, all of this no contact delivery didn't work for the disabled community living alone in their community. Okay, you're going to leave my groceries on my front steps while I'm in a wheelchair. How am I supposed to get it from the front steps into my house? Or if I'm blind, how do I know where the bags are on my front steps? It's not something that I'm readily or easily know. You know what I mean? So we had to come up with ways of changing that, and having boots on the ground and being a liaison to the state really made businesses open their eyes and wake up. Like, I worked with a ton of restaurants and stuff on how to do accessible ordering. Do they ask somebody, do you need a special accommodation? Do you need us to do something different to help you out better? And we came up with so many creative ways, and now restaurants have these customers that are valued to them. So now they're going to make their places accessible when they open, so these people can come in and they can meet them face to face and have a place to go.
Right. I mean, you're building an affinity and a loyalty between a group of people that have historically been underserved. And when you do that, the karma that you get, and it's instant, and the loyalty you get from that customer base is certainly well worth the time and the investment, and sort of overcoming that hesitancy to turn over that rock, if you will, and say, okay, what's the deal here? Let's pull that tooth and just make it happen, or at least the first step is understanding your problem. The first step is admitting you've got a problem. Well, it's folks who in different communities, when faced with this, have been adversarial in the past, and as a result, you've got a lot of people, I think, who've gone into hiding on this issue. And by preemptively engaging in a positive manner, I think it changes the entire equation. I can't imagine.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It truly changes the entire thing, because it's not enough to tell somebody you have to be ADA compliant, because they have no idea where to start or what to do. You need to go in there and you need to show them, do this, try this, start with this. This is affordable. This is how you can get a grant. This is where you can get some money. And these are the resources you can use. When you start walking people through real ways of doing this, it changes the whole ball game.
Right. No, I absolutely. What, in reflecting back on the year, in terms of all these different engagements you made, what is there one, and you don't have to say the specifics of who they are unless they're and you are comfortable with that, but what was your biggest win this year in terms of these type of audits you do?
Oh, God, there were so many. I mean, I don't even know how to pick one, because, like I said, we got chosen to be the disability liaison for the entire state. And then we got to work with Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Maine as well, because they saw the good that we were doing in Rhode Island. And they wanted to take some of our ideas to their states to make sure the disabled community were in their state. So that honor was so good for us. We also received the 2020 Caregiver of the Year organization this year for Rhode Island. That was given to us by the United Way and 211. So those two huge organizations to give us something so important out of all of the organizations that are out there was a huge win for us. Like I said, for a pandemic year, RAMP truly had a ton of success because it's opened so many people's eyes. We've changed 185 businesses to becoming accessible in the year of a pandemic.
Wow. Now that's outstanding, and it was done voluntarily in mutual cooperation, where there was value given to the community as well as the business. Like I said, in my run up to this, in a year of few wins, this is in a year that is the proverbial dumpster fire. Your efforts have been sort of a bright light, as they say. Often in a very dark existence where so many people right now are literally just trying to hang on. We had two businesses on last night, a restaurant and a wedding photographer, both folks esteemed, renowned within their respective communities, who are just powerful people, talented people, have been decimated by this. They both continue to hang on. They're both a testament to the human spirit. They've found ways to support themselves, but every day is a freaking battle. And I think that's true everywhere in this country right now for so many people. And a lot of people, we saw it today. There are people that we know of. We don't know them, but we know of them who passed today, who left us because this disease exists, is real, hurts people, kills people, leaves people with long-term wounds of which we know not what yet. And, and there's a lot of folks now, if there's any positive at all from this, I hope that folks can develop more empathy, because empathy is something that's seriously absent from a significant part of our society right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's true, but so many times during life, the disabled community says, you can't go to school from home. You can't go to the doctors from home. You can't work from home. You can't do any of these things from home. And within weeks of this pandemic and the world shutting down, everybody was working from home. Everybody was going to school from home. Everybody was going to the doctors from home. So everything that we've been told for years could not be possible, the entire world started doing it in weeks. Now they need to continue doing it.
Now, and if I could inject some note of levity into this, we accomplished the unthinkable, the unsurmountable, the enviable, the furthermore thought impossible. We can now even go out to dinner, order a couple of cocktails, and bring them home.
Yeah.
You know, imagine that. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm making light of it. You know, a question that's been brought to the governor's attention on a number of occasions is, when this is all over, that which could be seen as a societal gain, which ultimately, in many cases, revolves around the elimination of barriers, the elimination of rules that were rooted in ignorance or prejudice, or just appeared one day. I think it's fair to say that we no longer can afford to say we do things just because that's the way we always did them. And there are so many ways that these barriers have been broken down, that there's behaviors that will change permanently. And certainly the ability to operate on a sort of cellular remote basis has been permanently altered. That is now not only acceptable, it's considered enviable, and I don't think that's something that's going to change so easily. There are so many businesses which don't require mass attendance in one room. Some do, but most don't. And the technology and the money that I understand is being poured behind the scenes into technologies like the one that brings you and I together. You know, it's sort of a miracle. I mean, you know, think about this, Tina. 5 years ago, could you and I have put on a show where we can talk to each other in real time with high-resolution video, high-resolution audio? From literally, we've had shows now where we've had people from 5 different locations come together. That technology simply didn't exist. And
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. And there's so many businesses that I've heard from that their employees are happier working from home. They're more productive from working from home because they're not splitting their time between work and family. They don't have the commute time anymore. They're not stuck in traffic. You know what I mean? There's so many positives to what we've changed and what we do. So let's not dwell on the negative. Let's look at the positives and let's keep them going and going forward. Right. It's just changing everybody's perspective.
And for literally, at this point, a few $100s worth of technology, someone who is facing these sort of sentient physical challenges, whether it be because of paralysis or long-term disease, being immunochallenged, all of that now, for literally a few $100s worth of technology, can be plugged right back into the real world. And again, everyone, I'm convinced, and everyone has superpowers. It's just a question of finding out, particularly with kids. Every kid's got a superpower. It's just a question of finding out what that superpower is. It's like at the beginning of the Marvel movies, right? When they're young kids, they all figure out what they can do. Well, and that's what people need to do. And it's innovation that allows for the fulfillment of full human potential. And innovation like this, the ones that we're talking on right now, have given folks educational opportunities, have broken down exclusivity amongst communication platforms. Listen, the coalition, you know, I'm able to, quite frankly, with the quality of work that you and a handful of other people deliver in less than a year, are able to, I believe, compete against any media platform here in Rhode Island. We just can. Sorry, sports fans. I mean, I know that is for a lot of folks, the poobahs, particularly in the news media, who assumed that they would have a lifetime exclusive and that they were the ones, the arbiters of all that is good and evil in media today. Yeah, ruh-roh. It's anyone who's watched my Wednesday afternoons, my weekdays with Gina, knows that, well, you know, there's new sheriffs in town, and there's a lot of them, not just me. Although, as you know, as a narcissist, I consider myself the best narcissist on the planet. No one's as good as I am as being a narcissist, but, you know, I believe the world revolves around me, right? So, here we are. We created something from scratch. This implementation of it really started in March or April. And here we are.
And I mean, we had 20 successful shows this year on the coalition for the platform that you gave us. And I mean, we had people from political leaders, from the Secretary of State to Congressman, to our Governor's Commission on Disability, to Age-Friendly Rhode Island, and so many shows. Ben out in who's making accessible off-road wheelchairs out of his home.
Right.
That are completely incredible.
We have the chairwoman of the local United Way, who obviously is managing to do wonderful things, and made the United Way a player, if you will, by participating successfully in that receiving all those funds from the divorcee, if you will, of Amazon. She didn't get that money because they happen to be there. They get that money because of the quality of work that you do and the energy that she has brought to that organization. I think one of the most compelling moments for me in watching this show, I'll say twofold. Number one, the Congressman James Langevin joining us, and what a powerful figure he represents on so many playing fields. And then the family who wrote, just a few weeks ago, very powerful show about raising a child who has got some profound challenges and what they've incorporated. In order to bring folks to a platform like this, that means that you have had to develop not only just a legitimacy, but not only just a sense of empathy because of shared challenges with these different families who have so many obstacles to overcome, but there is a maturity and a gravitas that you've been able to develop within the community that has made these people willingly sort of flock to your doors. That's a secret sauce that's pretty hard to come up with these days, particularly when the media is so just terrible. How is it that forums like yours haven't been able to thrive while yet we're inundated with nonsense talking head shows where people are trying to have a political version of the ESPN moment? I don't understand it.
Yeah, well, like I said, nobody wants to talk about the disabled community. They don't want to think about us. They don't want to talk about us. And I can understand how advocates before me have dropped off because as much good as I do, I get hate mail on a daily basis. That I'm worthless, go kill myself. You know what I mean? No one wants to hear about it. But you know what? I'm a different person. And I'm like, thank you for your opinion. Move on. And I don't let it bother me because I'm me. I'm who I am. And I'm sorry you don't agree with me, but have a good day. And I don't take no for an answer. And I'm going to change the world and I want to change people's perspectives. So I don't let those bother me, but I could understand how other people let that get to them. And you can only bang your head against the wall so many times with no results, and then you give up. I don't give up. So that's our secret sauce is I just don't give up, and it's too important not to.
Was there one moment this year or a handful of moments that, because we're going to make, we've finally gotten all the shows up. We got one more show up to put up there onto the coalitionradionetwork.com. Folks, you can go to a link in the lower left-hand corner where you'll see and be able to access the most recent shows. And the next thing we're going to be doing is putting them up in a video group, if you will, so that they're accessible on the YouTube channel. Because these shows were not only just a moment of time, but stand alone with their, as an information source going forward. And, when I talk about that dyslexia show, that was the same thing. Yes, it happened in a moment of time in a set of circumstances, but those shows of yours will and continue to stand the test of time. They are as relevant now as they were some filmed 7-8 months ago, and I'm convinced that most of them will stay relevant for a very long time. So we're going to be working on creating an environment where people can easily access these individual shows as they may apply to their own personal situations or the situations of a loved one or a coworker or a friend. But were there any moments that really just, whether it was an emotional moment, a charged moment, a eureka moment, that really stand out to you?
Like I said, this has been a crazy year, but getting the feedback from so many shows that we ask the hard questions and we don't, like, even when I'm talking to the Secretary of State, like really grilling her on her accessibility platforms for businesses and organizations. I mean, I think she's doing a great job, but really pushing the envelope, or, when you have the organizations out there really asking the hard questions and the questions people are afraid to ask. Those are always incredible moments for me, to get the right answers and to let people know that you can ask these questions and get true answers and find a solution together. Another incredible moment this year when during a pandemic, I got to compete on a national stage with 30 women who walk as the only woman in a wheelchair, and to be recognized with so many awards, like the Volunteer of the Year award with 3,500 volunteer hours in the midst of a pandemic. And for the second year in a row, the overall speech award. Out of all those women, my speech was the most compelling, to know that I can go out there and I can change people's minds and change people's perspectives was a heart moment for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Talk to us about the Catamaran people, the boat people. That to me is a fascinating story.
Oh, that is one of my special projects. I've been with them for 4 years now. It's the Impossible Dream Catamaran. It's a fully wheelchair accessible sailboat that floats from Miami all the way up to Maine every summer. And then they go from Maine all the way back to Florida, and they stop at different ports along the way. And they take people with disabilities and their families out on the water for 2 hours. I don't know where anybody can go, where, especially the ocean state, to be out in Newport Harbor, out on a boat in my wheelchair, where I can fully access the bathroom, the entire ship. I've even got to sail the ship from the bow, from the steering wheel, and be fully part of it, is an amazing experience that we don't get to get. And then you get into Newport and nothing's accessible, but you just sailed for 2 hours on this gorgeous boat. But you get into port of Newport, and I have to ride around for an hour to find an accessible bathroom that I can actually get into.
That's crazy.
It is.
It just is. When you, as you know, I'm a small government kind of guy.
Well, I've always said if one of the Kennedys was in a wheelchair, Newport would all be accessible.
Yeah, no, it would be. It just strikes me that with all the money the government spends, how is it that we, as a society, and it's a real challenge now for even quote unquote folks without challenges. I'm not sure what the right term for that is, but for folks who aren't challenged, public health facilities like that, to be able to get to them, it's a problem, and we've seen that now. I can't even imagine, and it's sometimes it really comes down to a question of dignity, and your heart breaks. You see it as a challenge and you take it in a completely different perspective. But there are folks, I've got to believe, in your community who look upon this really as a basic function of human dignity, to be able to not have to, be made a special case of in front of everybody. That's got to get
It's so
exhausting.
true. I mean, and if you look at all of Newport, they have what I call the inevitable one step. All of their places are one step up. A $200 portable ramp would fix that to every single shop that they have in Newport. If they got one of these portable ramps, put it outside their door, they can remove it anytime that they wanted, and anybody, wheelchairs, knee scooters, walkers, people with strollers, could now access your stores and your restaurants, all for the price of maybe $200.
Right.
That's how easy it is to fix. And they don't want to make everything look accessible because it's not a good look, as they say.
Yikes. In the year 20, I got to ask you, I'm not naming names, but maybe I am asking names, but who in the year 20, almost 21, can maintain that sort of knuckle-dragging, single-stage thinking, mouth-breathing, troglodyte-like attitude? Yeah. My God. There are people who do that now? And forgive me for being so, ignorant.
It's so true. I mean, they'll give you that they're grandfathered in, which isn't a thing anymore after 30 years of the ADA. Grandfathered in is just an excuse people use because it's not a thing. Even the historic factor, they have more leniency, but they still have to be accessible. Like all of the mansions that open for Christmas time, I can't access any one of them.
Right. Right. And it's... ultimately, well, first of all, it's being publicly funded. It's a different thing. But ultimately, some of this stuff is their own private property per se. And, if they're going to be ignorant, then they don't deserve the business. But at the same time, it's yikes.
Yeah.
Why? Who wants to think like that? It's a cliche, but life is a buffet, and there's so many different experiences that you're limiting yourself from, if in fact you eliminate an entire community, and that could be whether it's religion, racial, sexual, or in this case, physical challenges. I mean, you're just
The weirdest part is, like I said, anybody can join this community. I walked into a 10-minute surgery, was supposed to be in and out and going out for lunch that day, and took a stroke to my spinal cord on the table. Complete fluke. I know another friend of mine who went in for another minor procedure, and he's paralyzed from the waist down. A very prominent man in our community is now, fighting for his life and paralyzed and learning how to navigate the world all over again. This could happen to anybody. Anybody can be part. Why not learn about it now? All of our family is getting older. They're going to be in this community, whether it's temporary or permanent. Be accessible and inclusive to everybody, so it's one less worry you have later on.
Right. No, it's what's the song? You had a bad day, it's like so many issues. We're just one step from a nervous breakdown, one false step, one simple act of fate triggered by something completely irrelevant to you. It's not your quote unquote fault, but it happened anyway. We see that with physical challenges. We see that with addictions. We see that with all sorts of issues in life now, where something happens, and we know now enough that bad things happen to some very, very good people. And no one really wants to deal with the cliches. It opened a new door for you. Well, F the new door. Yeah, and we're seeing that with COVID. This seemingly unrelated spate of deaths or permanent, there's just haphazard that just happened for no apparent reason. Or there's clearly some underlying fundamental cause that we have no idea yet. Life is arbitrary.
I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And the Lord put me in this wheelchair to fight for accessibility for others.
Outstanding. What are your plans for the new year? I know you've got some shows coming up.
I just moved into my brand new wheelchair accessible home made by Habitat for Humanity, that I was honored to swing a sledgehammer, work on the floors, paint everything on the nitty gritty, put in more than 1,000 hours of sweat equity in my own home. And we moved in on Christmas Eve. So 2021, we are already booked out for shows all the way through February. So we're looking for more fabulous shows and more people that we can highlight and talk about and resources. And truly, I believe 2021 is just going to be another year of 2020, just even better for RAMP. Because like I said, 2020 for us was an amazing year.
Now, we want to reach out to the community and say, there's a couple of things going on that people can engage in terms of sponsorships, in terms of projects that you're raising money for. The first two that come to mind, and let's talk, as we always should, about your red bag. Tell us about that, and then we'll talk about the generator. And go ahead.
Yeah. Our Red Bag initiative is keeping all of your medical information on you at all times, and it's non-tech based. We have spoken to a lot of first responders across the country. This is a national initiative, and even FEMA is part of it. So this is actually even a global initiative. It's not telling anybody anything about you, and the only people who see it are the EMTs and the doctors who take care of you. But just a little bag that clips to you. My 20-year-old son carries one just because he wants to be an organ donor, and he doesn't want me to have to make that decision if it ever came down to it someday. If you have an allergy, if you have a trigger, if you, with the opioid thing, if you have a drug of choice, or if you want somebody to be contacted or not, you put it in your red bag, and the only ones who know about it are the EMTs and the doctors who take care of you. It's such a huge initiative. We have bags all over this country, and everybody should be a red bag carrier.
Right, and you don't need a fancy smartphone. You don't need a piece of software. You don't need a password. And you don't need battery power.
Exactly.
It's
More people will tell me, oh, I have it on my phone or I have it on a USB. Well, there's not an EMT out there who's going to say, please don't die yet. Give me the code to your phone so I can get your medical history.
yeah.
Or if we're in the middle of a hurricane or we get wiped out by a flood, this still information stays with you at all times if you can't speak for yourself.
Right. I have this mental image of them finding me and putting my gradually cooling off finger on the thumb of my smartphone. Damn it! And that'll be the way I go. The way that I finally leave this mortal coil, I guarantee you, will be really idiotic and stupid.
Nice.
It's part of the theme. So
nice.
How can folks get a hold of a red bag? You've got them available.
They could just go to our website, www.rampisinclusion.com, and they can click on the red bag. We sell them for only $3, but we make no money on them. For every bag we sell, we replenish our bags and we donate a bag to the homeless, to the veterans, to the people who can't afford them. So that way everybody becomes a red bag carrier. So just for $3, you can save your family member's life and you can help out another.
Excellent. Now let's talk about your new digs. This is the first time you're broadcasting from the new digs, and the signal is spectacular. But in one of the challenges of folks, and again, I was blessed as a young person in the 70s to go to high school and I think I've told you about this before, Tina, in what was a remarkable environment back when you consider it was 1975, 76, 77, to go to a high school where young people who had some profound physical challenges were mainstreamed with the rest of a high school. And they had their own classrooms, which were outfitted per se, but we had lunch with them. We went to gym with them. In certain cases, we played sports with them. It was part of our lives. We were, they went to our prom. We went to our prom. We didn't think even of them as us and them. They were just
right.
They went to school with us. They were part of the scenery, part of the crew, part of the crowd, and and their own individual personalities and talents and temperaments had much more impact on the type of high school they had than the physical challenges. That is, for the 70s, simply didn't exist. Even now is rare. But so for me, I would have, going into our relationship and getting to know you, I thought I kind of had a handle on it. I mean, I think we even talked about it at the time. But, it's the little things that are not so little. And one of them in a state like Rhode Island, where for whatever reason, and this is an issue that I'm confronting in a different environment, we seem to have a little bit of a problem keeping the lights on. And it's a little bizarre because the last time I checked, we were part of what's allegedly the wealthiest nation on the planet, blah, blah, blah. And we were not a developing nation in some outlying area where the lights went on and off. And yet I've already had probably 5 or 6 times this year lost power, in some cases for days. Now, that's really aggravating for me. I work with the public during the day. I need to take a shower. I need to shave, even though I'm Irish, at least every other day. I need to wash my clothes. I'd like to keep my food cold and, then be able to heat it up when it needs to be hot. All the things that we take for granted. For you, however, and folks who rely on motorized, if you will, mobility devices, it's a lot more serious than it is, isn't it? What happens when the lights go out in Casatina?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I live right now in 100% wheelchair accessible mobile home. But what that means, accessible home, what that means is I have a motorized wheelchair. I have a chairlift getting me down to my basement to do my laundry. I have medical equipment that needs to be plugged in and charged at all times. If the power goes out and I'm in bed and my chair dies, I can't even get to the bathroom. I can't let my dogs out. People will say, oh, do you have your cell phone and a flashlight by your bed? That's great. If my chair is dead and my phone is dead, what's the flashlight going to do for me? I can watch myself die because now I can see my hands. But I'm trapped. I'm stuck. It's not a matter of losing my food because I can't even get to the kitchen to eat the food. Never mind, losing a whole refrigerator full of food.
Right.
It's a whole nother challenge that people don't think about.
So you're doing a fundraiser right now for a standby generator, which is not in your case, clearly not a luxury item. I mean, again, if I lose power, it sucks. If you lose power, you're immobilized.
Right. And there's so many people who were said, oh, why don't you just get one of those small little ones? Because those small little ones, one, have to be kick-started, two, have to be filled with gasoline maybe every 3 to 4 hours. Well, now I'm in a motorized wheelchair home alone in a snowstorm or in a rainstorm. How do I get out to get the gas to fill it? How do I get out to the machine to plug it in? How do I drag the machine to where it needs to be? The only way that it works for us is to have the automatic one that when your power goes out, the generator kicks on, and it's all done automatic for you where I don't have to fuss and I'm safe. Like you said, it's not a frivolous item for us. It's like a mandatory item for us, and we're having a hard time securing one. So we decided that, people want to help. We're going to have a fundraiser to make this house fully accessible, especially when you live out in Burrville. I thought the power went out a lot in Lincoln. The power goes out twice as much out here in Burrville for longer periods of time.
Right.
And what people don't understand is unless you're on a ventilator and it's life or death, there is no emergency where they come out and they fix your power first. That's not a thing. They don't believe me getting to the bathroom is an emergency.
Yikes. Holy cow. Well, we've only got a couple of minutes left. I do want to mention that if you're a manufacturer or a service that supports, or you're just a person of goodwill who interfaces with or has a customer base within, or you'd like to market yourself to folks who are facing these kind of profound physical challenges, there are sponsorship opportunities that we're going to roll out this year for RAMP to support Tina's efforts and to provide, if you will, the ability to expand the kind of services and programming that she's doing right now. This is a volunteer effort. No one's getting rich from this. No one making any money off of this. This is, quite frankly, a act of love by a handful of people who are just simply want to see RAMP and everything that it brings to the community thrive, so that all the folks that we may never meet, who may bring this up on our YouTube channel or may Google one of her efforts, will have the opportunity to see the love, the inspiration, and quite frankly, have access to a one source, one-stop shopping, if you will, for a level of information and input and news that doesn't really exist in a lot of places. And, we'll be putting that out, and hopefully that'll give folks an opportunity to be part of the RAMP experience in a whole different way. So there's a handful of ways going into 2021 that you can support Tina and our efforts. Again, a generator, the Red Bag project, which is purely a break even, if you will, purely supported by volunteer efforts in a way that will improve a lot of people's lives. And then, of course, we want to make the RAMP program, the RAMP experience, bigger and better than ever. And the support, as advertisers, you'll have an opportunity again to meet an audience that has been notoriously difficult to find a way of accessing. And yet you may have a good or a service or simply want to be part of the community and show a degree of empathy. Again, that society is rekindling because of COVID, yet still seems so challenged by. So remember, RAMP is a national organization. We went national in our first year. So your information isn't just being seen in Rhode Island. It's being seen nationally. Excellent point. So, Tina, what's your New Year's message? You got just a couple minutes left. What's your New Year's message to the RAMP community and to folks who may come upon this program in the coming days?
Change your perspective, open your mind, and try something new. Invite us in, and you will be pleasantly surprised of what we can bring to your lives and your businesses, and we can help you thrive.
Excellent. And if I can just put an exclamation on that point, Tina Peterson, you have had a profound impact on my life in the mere months that we've known each other. It's been for me, it's been 8 or 9 months. For you, it probably seems like a lot longer. But at the same time, quite frankly, you elevate our little effort here, and in terms of our Coalition Radio Network, you ennoble it and you make it better simply by you being here. And I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for everything that you do, because everything you do is really an act of love. And there certainly ain't enough of that going around today, is there?
Well, we thank you so much, because without you, we wouldn't have this platform to receive awards like we're receiving and to spread our message the way we do. So thank you, Coalition and Pat, for making this all possible.
Excellent. Well, listen, it's an absolute pleasure, and let's make 2021 even better. Let's go out there, light some fires, kick some butt. What is it? Release some whoop ass, and let's change the world. How about that?
Our year kicks off next Wednesday. We start with our guests again next Wednesday, and we have a slew of great people that we'll be talking to.
Who do you have coming up next Wednesday?
I don't remember who I have on the docket for next Wednesday. It's a Rhode Island organization. I know that. Hold on. I will look it up really quick. Our first one will be, Rhode Island Elder Care with Deb Burton. She's fabulous.
Excellent. And what are a couple of things? Tease us a little bit with a couple of the things you'll be covering.
Oh, we got some. After that, we have the Dare to Dream Ranch. We'll be talking with Karen Dalton. We also have Jamie Oakley with Natural Healing and Essential Oils. She's fabulous. We'll be talking to the Disableist Network. They're a national network that's helping promote so many more, and some local businesses and artists who are in the disabled community. We got so many things on the platform that you are not going to want to miss an episode.
Excellent. Tina Peterson, why don't you bring us home for the night and bring us home for 2021?
Well, thank you, everybody. Happy New Year. Thank you for supporting us so far. And like I said, change your perspective for the new year and just join us. You will be pleasantly surprised, and you will make your businesses and organizations soar by being inclusive to everybody.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Happy New Year. Bye, everybody.